Hello and welcome to the Endless Eight podcast, a curated collection of 8 selected Kyoto animation works that we are covering in this series. I am your host Yata, and joining me today are 2 lovely co-hosts. One is Clearandsweet Kai,
Hello. Thank you for joining us on this episode 3 of this Endless 8 that we'll be doing.
and we promised, nay threatened, guests in the future, and we have delivered. Please welcome Sen.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Well, I'm very excited that we have you here, Sen, and thank you so much for coming on. I think you're going to provide a great perspective into this Kyoto Animation show that we're going to be talking about today. One that I think is absolutely fantastic, and I am so very happy that we get the chance to talk about. This episode will be all about Free Eternal Summer from 2013. This is the 2nd season of Kyoto Animation's famous swimming anime. It is directed by Hiroko Utsumi, and she would later leave Kyoto Animation to go on to Banana Fish and Skate the Infinity. And it features character designs by Futoshi Nishiya. May he rest in peace. You can check out my eulogy video elsewhere on this channel to talk more about him. He does the character designs for this show, which I think will be relevant for what we're talking about later.
Oh, they definitely will.
Yeah,
they definitely will.
This was pretty exciting, and I remember when I suggested this show, Yata, you were kind of like, really, the 2nd season of Free? Like, what's going on there? Why do we want to explore that? And I think it's pretty clear. I don't know. What do you feel now?
I guess when you know the whole list in totality, a 2nd season of an anime totally makes sense, considering how odd the list is. But maybe this was suggested early on and when we were brainstorming ideas. So it was like, surely he means the 1st season, right? No, but then, like, it's definitely better than the 1st season. I will say that. I actually hadn't seen Eternal Summer prior to like this week. I had seen the 1st season and I was sort of comfortable leaving it at that. It was one of those things where I was like, I will definitely get to that one day. And one day became several years. And it might have been forever, who knows? But I'm glad, thanks to the oddities of this list, that I got to check it out. And yeah, I'll co-sign that. I think it's definitely a very enjoyable show. It hits a lot of boxes that kind of just it reminds me of Haikyuu, which is about as high a praise as I can give. That is, if you know me, that's literally like the highest praise I could give anything. So that's a big cosign.
Sen, do you concur on Free Eternal Summer being a stronger season than the original Free season?
Oh, for sure. I think that it leans into like the thing that kyo-ani does well and is known for, which is like high drama. Yeah, it's definitely more emotional, I think, than the 1st season. And I was thinking about it while watching it. I think that like the emotional high points in the 2nd season feel a little bit less I don't know. I don't want to say contrived. I wouldn't say that they were like contrived in the 1st season, but I think that the melodrama made a little bit more sense. I guess it felt more natural in the 2nd season.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I think that the way I approach Free, and we'll talk about the different ways that you can approach Free. That's something that I absolutely want to bring up, and is a fertile ground for discussion. But I think the way that I view season 1 of Free is just kind of this really standard sports drama where there's nothing particularly stand out about it. Very by the numbers, I would say. But then Free Eternal Summer does a number of I don't know. I don't think that it's super surprising. That doesn't give the rest of the sports anime genre enough credit. But I think it's super interesting the way that it explores the drama in its characters.
Right.
I do want to say that maybe you said high drama, I believe. Was that the phrase? Yeah, when our first episode was about Clannad After Story, and we like to talk a lot about the progression of Kyoto Animation over the course of this, looking at all these shows, and yeah, high drama in a functional way, I think is what we find
Yeah.
in Free Eternal Summer, and in less of a fantastical kind of contrived way that you would see in
Right,
something like
right.
Clannad After Story. So yeah, I
God,
like
just
that. I
casting
like that
strays in
wording.
here. Poor Clannad. You know, who would have saw it? Who would have thought it would become the benchmark for like dumping on shit?
But yeah, it really is, and that's something that we should bring up at the start here, is that this is like modern Kyoto Animation in a couple ways,
Mm.
and this, I guess, would go back to the character design, right? That they're like lanky, and there's a lot of shirtless men in this show.
Really?
So
I didn't notice.
a lot of the appeal of Free actually lies in how shirtless they are, and that reading is definitely invited by the character of Go. So kind of this segues into the first way that I want to look at Free, and why I'm glad we have Sen as a guest here, because they know better than most about consuming Free in this Fujo way, I guess. That kind of
Mm.
simplifies it, but there is an invited sexual consumption of the main characters.
Right.
And I think that you mentioned earlier that that's kind of the rap, right? This is the reputation that Free has. And probably,
Right.
Yata, why you didn't feel the need to continue on to season 2, because that reading is so prevalent and out there, right?
Mhm.
Even if it does beguile a lot of the more interesting character drama. So
Mhm.
could you, I know, Sen, you're a little more in tune with the fandom, or in that space, or people that are reading the show in that way. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. And I don't know. I'm not even sure that like the that Free being labeled and often like dismissed as a Fujo bait show. I'm not sure that it's like, not that it's not appropriate, because like Fujoshis love Free, like of course. But it's like in the scope of like boys love shows and other Fujo bait shows. I think it's like it's not, I don't know. I feel like the sexual objectification of the boys in Free is not as um I don't know, not as
Exploitative?
I that and like I don't think that it's like that uh like emancipated from the male gaze that you would see like in any other like mainstream anime, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Like it's not that far removed. And I like there's definitely fan service, but I don't think that like the sexual exploitation of the boys in Free is like that crazy for it to only be regarded as like a Fujo bait show, if that makes sense.
Oh, what you're saying is there's a lot worse out there that you can.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I get it. I will say that there's a weird balance in Free. I think
Mm.
that there absolutely are deliberate shots of crotches, and like the situations where in the first season, when Rin pins Haru against the chain link fence and like pushes his face right close to him, and you're like, okay, all right, I see what we're doing here. But then at the same time, there's like a lot of slice of life stuff there too. There's a
Yeah.
ton of comedy and Free. And as we say, there's an incredible amount of sports drama and very good plot character stuff going on. So
Mhm.
I think I know what you're saying there. That it exists. It is certainly a reading that is deliberately put out there and available in this show, and is not that hard to find if you're looking for it. At the same time, it explores the full range of ways that teenage men can have relationships, I will say. Who's your favorite ship in the show?
Oh God, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this. You're asking Sen, right?
I'm asking
me?
either of you,
Okay.
both of you, because
Okay.
I will answer with my answer, but both of you.
Specifically for this season, I would say Sosuke and Rin. Just like Sosuke has such a clear infatuation with Rin that I think is portrayed in a very clearly like romantic light. And I like them together. I think they have like their little moments, the handshakes, the secret handshakes, and like all of that. I think they have a special relationship. And yeah, I think it's very clear. It's made very clear that like Sosuke is.
Yeah,
It's a little bit one-sided, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. And that's his whole angle, right? Of like he comes back to the to that hometown to, you know, even though his shoulder's busted, he wants to have his race against Rin and you know everything that's behind that. And he gets jealous with the friends that you know that Rin has made with the Iwatobi swim club. So yeah. Okay. Well, Yata, same question to you.
And I have the same answer.
Oh wow!
Yeah, well, one,
really?
like, Sosuke is spectacular looking. Like, oh my God,
very pretty. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's actually absurd. There must have been about 12 times in the series that I was like, this character is literal perfection. And then I do have like feelings about another like key pair, which I guess is probably Haruka and Makoto. But I would say my most like Fujoshi moments in the series was actually Haruko and Makoto, when Makoto was kind of like getting real with them at the fireworks festival.
The big conflict.
Oh my God!
Yes, that was like my big like Yuri on Ice, just fucking do it moment. Where it was just like I was
like
there.
The one point when like Haruka is actually showing emotion.
Yeah,
and you're like, no.
There was like, it really lingered on that like wrist lock that he was holding. Yes. One, it was very like it was pretty great to see Makoto like that, for one, because he's so gentle, you know, like and love Makoto, by the way, love Makoto. But yeah, it was definitely Rin and Sosuke. Like I felt this whole series was kind of a bit of a W for Rin, actually. I thought Rin was just fun. Like the fact that everyone just loves him. I love him. You know, I so relate to everyone. I always struggle with the name of the team. Not Saratobi. Oh, what's the name of the team?
Iwatobi?
No, Rin's team. Oh,
trivia.
I can't remember.
Yeah, he's the captain in this season, right? Of
the
whatever swim club.
And I got Samezaka. I found everything what to do with Samezaka this season just like fascinating. So it was definitely Rin and Sosuke for me. Like
I think
home run here.
Rin in general kind of makes out the best in this season, and that's a very funny play on words, and that's I did not intend that. That's fun though. Because he like in season 1 is kind of like this villainous shark person, right? like not that interesting, but in season 2 he really has this the most of everything in the season revolves around him. And he does get put in these interesting roles of, now you have to be the captain, now you have to figure out what you want to do with your life, are you pursuing swimming full time, you know? And he has this interaction too with Haru and then with Sosuke, and those pull at him in different ways. And he's just a more complex character than Haru ever gets the chance to be, or ever does. And can I say that's one of probably my criticism of Free in general as a thing, is that Haru is just like
nothing.
not a character, barely a character.
Right.
The reason I dropped season 1, like not dropped it, I finished it, but the reason I wasn't so urgent to get into season 2 at the time was because I actually didn't like Haru
He's
at
boring.
all.
He's still boring, honestly.
He just gives you nothing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was just like, I just really wanted him at one point just go, how about you ask somebody else what they're doing or how their day is for once, you know?
Yeah, for throughout the entirety of season 1, he is literally characterized as like the personification of wanting to swim in a pool. And it's like that's not a character, man.
No.
That's like, yeah. So at least in this season, he does have the stuff with Makoto, right? He does have his soul searching journey to Sydney with Rin, right?
Mhm.
Like that's something. And I think that my choice for best couple would be Rin and Haru in Australia. That's their whole.
Really?
Yeah, I like that. When they see the Olympic team and they, and
Oh, wasn't that oh my gosh. Who was it? That was Naoko Yamada's episode,
oh,
right?
is it? Okay.
I believe so.
I didn't look up to who did each episode, but yeah.
And there was a moment where Rin kind of encourages Haru to choose, like when they're about to like go swimming in either the professional or the recreational pool, and
Yeah.
Rin like gives Haru the opportunity to choose, which I thought was really well done.
Yeah, and that's just so the thing I like about this season the most, and I guess we can go there right now because you've invited it, is that the core concept is that choice, right? Or are you going to be a competitive swimmer and everything that entails? And I have a lot to say about that in the future, but from a narrative, from like a series composition angle, having the ultimate villain of this season be that choice, be just that
Right.
thing in Sydney of like, are we going to take this seriously? And there's
Right.
no other conflict, like there's no like big bad race or like, we have to go to, they do go to nationals and everything, but it's like the core of the show is this soul searching thing in Sydney. And
Right.
like I love that so much as a climax, and the relationship between Haru and Rin, who both can are dealing with this choice and what they want to do. I think that's my favorite part of this season, indeed. So I guess I can go on here with what I want to say, because it just slots very nicely into that. And this is going to be a lot of me talking, so don't feel free to interrupt me on this, because I use this show to talk about different modes of consumption with the Fujo bait angle, but also having a sports drama. But then I talk about reader response criticism, and when you engage with an element of a work of art, you bring something to the work of art that other people may not have, or it may be a shared experience that everybody has. Well, in this is a weird one for me because I did grow up as a competitive swimmer, and I did that for 10 years of my life, was actually competing in meets, did all of this, everything that's depicted in this show. I was there and have firsthand experience doing this, and like to the point where I appreciate a lot of the small stuff in Free. Like in the first episode of season 2, they do a freestyle relay, which is a 4x100 or 200 freestyle. But then Ray can't swim freestyle, so he swims butterfly, and the other guy, the captain for the team, is like, also butterfly too. And to the point where I was like, oh yeah, you can do that. That's actually legitimately allowed in a freestyle relay, if as long as you don't swim the same stroke as somebody else. So it was just like a really cool stuff. Or like the fact that they have these the leg suits, the ones that go all the way down to their ankles. Those suits are now illegal because they created too much resistance, or they wicked away water too well, and they everybody started wearing full body suits back at the Olympics. Yes, they're cheating. But when the show but no, this is really cool, because when the show is made in 2013, or the first season, even earlier, they are not cheating because it was not illegal back then, which is super cool, right? So there's lots of like minutia like that, right? And of course, the free stuff, but then it like extends to the entire plot of this season, because swimming as a sport, and I don't know how close this is to other sports. I only swam competitively. But swimming as a sport is entirely defined. How good you are at swimming is entirely defined by how much you swim. So, like, you can get swim lessons and I can teach you to swim, and then you will learn to swim. To get better at swimming, you must swim and swim and swim and swim. And it's just repetition. And like college practices are 2 a days, or even pro practices are like 3 a days for 2-hour sessions. So that's like 6 hours a day, and you're doing 5K, meters, and it's like it's so much time. It's so much commitment for not even the chance to go to the level that Haru and Rin swim at in the final season in college, or in the final shot of this season. So it's like when Sosuke comes here and he comes into this thing and he's like, don't get in the way of Rin. Rin's out there teaching swim lessons to little kids or whatever, right? And he's having his friendships and he's like, maybe I can do other things in life. And then Sosuke's like, no, you can't distract him from being the, sinking all of his time into swimming and dedicating himself entirely to it. Swimming demands that. Right. And that's the only way you can compete at that level. So like, having that context, like literally having said or had someone come up to me and was like, hi, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to dedicate this much time to getting good at swimming? And turning away and saying, no, I don't care that much. But actually having it be a choice, that was such a powerful thing to see replicated in this fiction. And I think that's something that other people wouldn't necessarily have access to, that firsthand experience of literally having been in Rin's situation.
Right.
And yeah, that just speaks to the efficacy of Kyoto Animation, to the research, to the dedication. I love Free Eternal Summer for presenting that. That's my spiel.
Nice, dude. That was nice. So on the swimming thing, how did you feel did you feel like it was the way they chose to represent the actual swimming itself, like when it was like competitive, where they sort of like took away the goggles and they took away the swim cap, and you had that sort of like weird sort of like, because I was thinking about it, like one part of me was saying like, oh, it's kind of goofy, I guess, but another part of me is like, well, how else could you do it and convey emotion, right? Where they're not just sort of like gasping for air and they're sort of like covered, like all their key sort of like features are covered.
Yeah. So it ended up that struck me as goofy as well. Yeah. No, it totally did. And I think that's just a flaw of the sport. You can't really interact when you're swimming in the same way you could with like basketball or you brought up haiku or volleyball. So they kind of had to do that. And to their credit, they keep the swimming minimal-ish throughout the entire show.
I also think that like that in particular is like a very Utsumi thing. I think that like that's very much her directorial style.
Okay. Well,
there was actually on the swimming, there's like, it's very rare, and this is probably the only time I'm ever going to say this in any of these episodes, maybe Monto, where I could have like used more from the animation. Every time they got into like the swimming proper,
yes.
There was this like hint that it was going to be quite expressive, and I was remember thinking, I was like, man, if Misaki Yuasa had a go at this, I think this would be spectacular. Like I know he has that like surfing movie, or so maybe he does water really well. It felt like it was it just felt like it was going to get really loose and expressive. And I know not everyone loves that, but I fucking love like a loose, expressive animation style, especially when it's like, okay, we're in the water, and the way they treat, especially like the way that grumpy boy, what's his name? Haruka, because the way this sort of weird relationship with the water as like this, where it's this sort of fucking mythical place or whatever, or there's like it's this sort of like other level of reality between him when he's one with the water or whatever. Like I feel like it could have got really expressive with the animation there and quite loose. In saying that, though,
Absolutely.
holy crap, the animation is good. Like, in a very kind of like, we keep it rigid, we have this sort of style, and we don't break it, you know,
Yes.
which is like is more of a kyo-ani thing anyway. I think of like consistency when I think of them anyway.
Yes.
But God, I was just like, just wanted a little bit more from those swimming scenes when we got them.
And I think,
You know,
like, to that point, I think that a lot of, like, particularly with the, like, the animation, I think that a lot of the effort is reserved for, like, character acting. Like, there's a scene with I think it was Tatsuya Sato, when they're like, it's Rin and Haru, and they're like arguing in the locker room, and they're like yelling about like having a dream, and Haru's like, I don't have a dream, yeah. um and the like that scene on its own was more impressive in terms of animation than a lot of the like very important like swimming matches and stuff.
And do you? I think it's like totally intentional too.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know, just swimming in general, even watching competitive swimming, and I, watch the Olympics all the time for whenever, or even the national swimming things. It's just, it's not that entertaining. It's kind of just a line in the water. At some
Yeah.
at some degree, even with an underwater camera, and you're free to do that in animation. It's like, it's not like a sword. Sword fights are so good because you can put the two cross swords in front and have the people like very
Right.
close and yell at each other. But in swimming, you don't really get that. So I think they saved that animation for those other
Right,
situations. I
exactly.
do, yeah.
And that's not to discredit like the animation during the
Oh, no.
matches and stuff. It's incredible. There's a lot of like really cool like zooming shots when they jump in the water. And
Yeah.
there's like, it's kind of like zooming out on their body, and there's kind of like a fisheye effect. It's very, very well done. And also like I I definitely don't know enough about this. But like the fact that they're in water constantly, and well, not constantly, but like a good portion of the time. And I didn't notice this the first time when I was watching, but like it's in every single cut of them being in the water, there's like very careful um distortion of the animation, like CG distortion of the animation under the surface of the water, which I can't even imagine. Like, such an ambitious thing to do, and it's like it's done so well that you don't even notice it. Um, but yeah,
That's
it's really incredible.
That's that Kyoto Animation production value, though.
Yeah.
You know that they thought about that, and I mean, I would love to see a behind the scenes thing of how they did
Oh yeah.
that type of distortion in the water. Yeah, absolutely. We'd also, you mentioned before that the art design, the backgrounds, and everything in
They're
the show are
gorgeous. Oh my
so
god.
good, and I think you get that Kyoto Animation production value in a lot of aspects. Like like the ending song to season one is just, it's just so good, and it's so it's just nice animation. But yeah, it really does feel like a kyo-ani production, for because at this
Oh
time they're
yeah.
they're legit, they're big time by now,
Mhm.
there's something to be envied in the animation industry, and this is one of those times where they flex a little bit.
Right.
um Man, we got a lot else to talk about. uh do you think this is a funny show?
I laughed out loud all the time.
Good, good. It wasn't just me, because I do.
Yeah.
Even in the like more slice of lifey moments too. I think it's
Mhm.
an endearing show, and that tonal balance, mm, mm, it's right on for me.
one more for that chef's
Yeah,
kiss.
yeah, exactly. And we'll get to stuff that I think is great, like Nichijou, but I think there's some elements here, or even K-On! I think you see a little bit of that in this.
Yeah.
Not in any of the art or animation, because it doesn't very much look like it, but I think it feels like it at time. and
Right.
that's a huge advantage for a sports show, I think. You
Yeah.
can get so wrapped up in the back and forth of the the drama that's going on and everything. But if you cut it with the comedy and the slice of life, then you get such a digestible thing.
Yeah. It strikes a nice balance.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's like it's a pretty good balance as well, because I think as maybe unappealing as swimming might be in terms of like a competitive discipline, to like as a vehicle for the drama here, mixed with that sort of like slice of life shtick that kyo-ani does so well anyway. I think
Mhm.
it does it's a pretty good cocktail. Like if I compare it to like Suriname, for example, I feel like, because that's something kind of similar in terms of like we have like kyo-ani doing a sport, and I feel like here the balance was just a little bit. It was tighter in this instance than it was
Mhm.
in Suriname.
yeah.
As much as I enjoyed Suriname, but yeah.
Do
Although I will
you
say,
know what
actually, I
that
did like the swimming. I would say I did actually kind of like the swimming. I hadn't. Maybe you could answer this, like, because this is an issue with not an issue, but it feels like the emphasis on team
Yeah. So
was it a bit contrived, or
no, absolutely not. And I think that's the coolest thing, is that the biggest event in the swimming is, it's an individual sport through and through, but
Mhm.
yet the biggest event is always the relay, the medley relay where they swim their own strokes, and then the free relay. It's kind of the most competitive one. And in the last Olympics, they actually introduced a mixed medley, or a mixed free relay, which is two participants from the women's division and two from the men's for each
Hmm.
country. So that was like a big deal for I know for like country bragging rights on the Olympic level, but also team bragging rights. No, the relays are definitely kind of the thing that each swimmer is probably the most proud about, and
Mm.
that they care the most about. Absolutely, absolutely, and it's a huge prestige thing on these teams too. Even at the international level and the national level, of being able to represent your country or your college or your whatever have you on the relay, uh, is a huge bit of pride, and something that people on the team will contest each other for.
I do like
Absolutely,
the I guess it's like, it's sort of semi fascinating to me, like how anime sort of navigates these sort of like individual sports, and try to make it like through a prism of this sort of team dynamic. Because like personally, my all-time favorite anime is Run with the Wind, which is essentially free but for running, in
Mhm.
terms
sure,
of like,
sure, sure.
we have this quite individualistic sport, but we're doing it as a team, and it's about like, discovering this sort of like ideal that behind the running, right? Like it's just, and
Yeah,
I see that a lot in, again, in as much as I shit on Haruka, him sort of like reaching for this fucking like ideal version of whatever swimming is. That's
right.
sort of what's happening in Run with the Wind as well, but it's like this real big emphasis on this, like not running as an individual, even though it's an individual sport. This idea of being like
Mhm.
propelled by your teammates, and it's there's definitely parallels between that in Run with the Wind and this in Free, and in terms of like
Yeah,
story beats as well, there's like a lot of elements that are quite similar. But yeah, it's an interesting sort of like route that they go with, or like anime in general, or like storytelling, I guess. It's like there's this real focus on this sort of like team dynamic,
right.
less so than the
And
individuals.
can I extend that too, to not even just, them building up the Iwatobi swim club and, making these friendships, but Rin and his characterization, we see it in this season, that he is defined, or he like succeeds or excels when he is in direct competition with Haru, or
Mm.
he is aggressively put against him, and he tries to put Haru into that role early in the season, and tries
Mhm.
to kind of, maintain that conflicting relationship. But they've kind of moved past that, and that doesn't work anymore. And and that this all gets, wrapped in there with Sosuke too. um is like, can Rin operate outside of that model? Can he be collaborative?
Mhm.
Can he not just fuel himself with the desires of beating Haru? Can he be something else? And what else can drive him in that way? Whereas Haru is this very pure kind of, swimming for swimming's sake. And then he goes through his crisis of not having a dream and everything. And, what is that? If Rin's dream is to beat Haru, then how does he redefine himself too in that way? So I would take your collaborative thing of, yes, they took an individual sport and made it collaborative, which they certainly did. And then also they took an individual sport, made it competitive, but then took it further. And, and then I love anything where somebody's world falls down around them and they are who they define themselves as is challenged and they are forced to redefine themselves. And that's exactly what Haru and Rin go through in the course of this season.
How do you feel like
I really
sorry,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
okay.
I was just gonna say I really, really enjoy the character arc with Haru in particular, and him being forced to decide to take agency, like probably for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting for him as a character.
Totally. And Rin discovering all the other things that he can be outside of that and who he can be.
Oh, for sure. He's like Rin is kind of like a pillar for in this season for like other characters to develop from, like for Haru and Sosuke in particular. Rin kind of acts as like a catalyst for them both, I think.
Absolutely. The character web is so good, and that's why I like it. All right. I guess now would be a good time to bring this up, but I'm going to assume if you are a Free fan that you are also a fan of the abridged series of Free, which is called 50% Off.
I've never heard of this.
Oh boy!
You're not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone. I avoid the bridge seasons like the plague.
I swam through the P cloud that I didn't expect. Okay, that's a thing too. People pee in the pool. That's totally true. Okay, all right. Where to begin on this one? So when Free came out, it was in the height of the abridged series, right? As started by famous abridger Little Karibo on Yu-Gi-Oh! The abridged series. It was kind of near the tail end because that was all the way through the mid to late 2000s and then into the 2010s. And a YouTuber called by the name of Octopimp.
Great name.
And that's the channel. You can go look it up. It's 50% off. And it is a parody abridged series of Free, and it is notable because many of these abridged series were just such low quality. So many of them, even though Dragon Ball Z abridged did get famous, I don't think it's nearly as good as 50% Off. And many of the people that did these abridged series back in the day stopped doing them and went on to do other things. The person who behind Free's abridged series 50% Off, Octopimp, is now a famous voice actor, even voicing Axel Lowe in Guilty Gear Strive. And he leveraged his success doing this abridged series of Free and making jokes at Haru's expense to become a famous voice actor. So it's wild, but it's just the best writing. And to your point of Haru's such a bland character, right? Especially through season 1, that what they do in the abridged series is they just make him have what is it called when you have multiple personalities inside of your head?
Multiple personality disorder, schizophrenic.
Schizophrenic. That's the word I was looking for. Yes. So they make Haru schizophrenic and have many Harus inside of his head. So all these scenes where Haru is just doing nothing, he's not a participant in the thing. They have a dub of all the Harus fighting for control going on in his head, and it sometimes runs almost half the episode. It's so funny. There are so many great jokes. you and everybody listening to this must go watch 50% Off. I can't believe you guys haven't seen it. It's got millions of views on YouTube.
Literally, I'm looking at it right now.
That sounds
Literal
incredible.
millions of views.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, shout outs to I forget his name, Octopimp. He goes by his real name now. Little Karibo's the only real one left. Anyway, that's a divergence.
Didn't see that coming, actually. I gotta lie. We should have read through the document clearly. It's like, wait, we're going. The abridged series.
I should have pinged you guys to watch that. Instead of this, we should be doing an episode about 50% Off.
Yeah, the history of. That would be.
Yeah.
I've honestly, I've always found that kind of like abridged like community or that world of abridged series just like absolutely impenetrable in terms of like I do not understand the appeal of this at all. I honestly, it's one of those things where like maybe I haven't found the right one, right?
There is no better example than 50% Off. So if anything is going to get you into it, then it's going to be that. And now with the full context of free behind you, you can do it. Well, not full context of it, because this series continues after this. I mean, we're only talking about the second season, and we've all watched the first and the second season. But Sen, I believe you've seen the rest of Free. Could you talk like a little bit about where it goes from here, and like if people should be interested in that?
I've only seen I saw, oh my gosh, what's it called? The one with the Shotas. The where they're younger, the movie.
Right, there's a prequel movie where they are all prepubescent, I guess, or like 13. I don't know how old they are. Is it Take Your Marks? Is that it?
Yes, yep, that's it. I have seen that movie, and then I have seen the third season. I believe is there another movie?
Looks like there are. They might be recap movies. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I want to feel like a lot of research. Was the movie that came out last year?
Yeah, they kept going with Free. Yeah.
I guess it makes them make the money, eh?
Yeah, I guess it is. I suppose it is, right?
Yeah, like.
But I was talking a little bit with Kai about this before. These first two seasons were the only two that Utsumi directed. And actually the last thing that she worked on before leaving kyo-ani. And you can I think you can definitely sense her absence in the movie and also in the third season. It's in terms of tone, I think it's like a little bit more serious. You miss a little bit of the kind of over the topness that she brings to everything she does. But it's also like more free. Like it's the difference is not that it's the difference isn't like night and day. It's I think like maybe if I didn't know, then I probably wouldn't even notice that like someone else was directing it. But yeah, it's more free, more boys swimming.
They're in college now.
Yeah, they're of age now.
they're men swimming, right?
Yeah, men swimming. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think that maybe even I don't know. I would have to rewatch the third season, but if my memory serves me correctly, I think that it might like there's a new character who his name's Ikuya. And he was like one of the boys that they swam with when they were younger. He's like one of the shotas in the movie. But he is like going to college with them. And if my memory serves me correctly, there's like the romantic undertones are a little bit more perceivable. Don't quote me on that though. But I remember thinking it was a little bit spicy. But yeah, if you enjoy Free, like, it's more Free. It's exactly what was in the first 2 seasons continued.
I always think about these larger questions in art, and like Free is a great example to explore so many of these questions. And I already talked about like dual modes of consumption, or how you can still appreciate the dramatic angle and then also have the sexual consumption angle simultaneously, and you can hold those multiple realities in your head. I have a video on that on my channel, absolutely. But the one I always wonder about is like pandering, right? Is like, or from a, I guess this extends to any art created under capitalism, right? If you sit down in that boardroom and then there's all these Kyoto Animation executives and they're like, what should we make? We can make anything. What do you want? And then it's like, oh, what if we do another season of Free, but they're in college and it gets a little more spicy with the boy on boy action? And they're like, yeah, that's it. That's it. And it's like, is that just, yeah, right? Is it a creative impulse? Do you really need to see more about these stories? Like, and we've been making this great argument that there is some, tangible creative impetus behind this season of Free. Like, this is a good piece of fiction. And then when does it not become a good piece of fiction? When does it become a cash grab? And that line is so incredibly blurry that how do you even get at that? How do you even describe that or talk about that? I don't know that there's an answer.
Yeah, like, at least from my experience, only having seen the first 2 seasons, the first season and both the second season felt sort of necessary for these characters. So it never felt like a cash grab at any point. Right. Now, maybe, if I completed the journey, the 2 movies and the additional series, maybe it would feel like, okay, this probably could have ended already. But at least for right now, it definitely felt necessary. Like, this second season really felt like this needed to happen. You know what I mean?
Totally. Totally. And you know what it brings me back to? It brings me back to our discussion on Hibike Euphonium. And when we sat there and said, what is season 3 going to be? Like, what are you going to do? And I think that's the, I even thought about this in Mish Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Like, I think we got everything that we needed out of the first season. And maybe there's a difference between running something into the ground and, having explored necessary elements of a character's backstory, or not backstory, but self and purpose and arc. So I don't know. There's so many elements to it. More thoughts? Anyone? Are we just forever treading water in the grand pool of art under capitalism?
I think it's even more difficult to distinguish this with kyo-ani in particular, because everything is so carefully crafted, and like there's a little bit of a sameness to the writing and series compositions. So it's even more difficult to tell, like, was this a cash grab, because like everything is like treated with such care.
And I guess totally. I get a lot of it is also like, do you actually care? If that makes sense. It's like, like, for example, like, again, if I got like another series of Haikyuu or another Haikyuu movie, I would not give a shit. I'm just there for like literally anything, because I guess I've already got to the point where I've consumed like at least artistically or whatever, and intellectually, like, enough of it that I literally, they've almost earned it, right? Like, you can do whatever at this point, like, I just want it. I'm just there for the characters. I'm there for, like, it's almost like a comfort blanket, right? And that might not necessarily be the most like noble of angles to approach it from, in terms of like, but as a fan, it's just like, oh, yeah, you do this. It's fine. It's like I think I'm at that point with Euphonium, right? They could literally do anything, and I'll probably watch it. You know what I mean?
You were speaking directly to my soul. I think about that way for Haruhi Suzumiya. I think about that way for Madoka Magica, and I think like how much they would have to do to burn through my goodwill and love of this intellectual property, and it's a lot, right? And I know people were so invested in Free, whether that even was just for the boy on boy romance or for any angle. So I know it hit a lot of people in that way, that they would be invested enough to keep going with it, even after the point where maybe it should logically stop.
So where would you put this in your pantheon of sort of like Fujoshi sort of centric
I want to direct
anime?
this question to Sen, first of all. Sen, if you were making a tier list, where would you put, and this is a tier list of all Kyoto Animation shows.
Or
I don't know how many other.
Or all boy-centric shows?
Oh yeah, or sure, all
because kyo-ani shows like there's really only
Actually-
Free, right? Free and
I have
Surina.
not like
Free.
seen that many boys love shows or Fujo shows. I think like the I would put it my top favorites would probably be Dokusei and Stranger by the Sea. And I don't know, it's hard because like Free isn't actually like a boys love show.
Right.
The romantic undertones are like tangible, but it's never explicitly touched upon in any meaningful way. Like no one kisses. That's like
it's a
the
bait
main
show.
thing.
Yeah.
But as far as like I can't think of any other like Fujo bait shows that I think are done as well as Free. I would put it pretty high.
Well, then rate it as a sports drama. Then how would you also consider it pretty high tier as just a sports drama in general? Yeah, it's a tough one, right?
It's hard because it's like it's crossing into so many genres.
Sure. And we also like we're rating them all based on Kyoto Animation shows or the quality of anime that has been produced by Kyoto Animation.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I feel. I feel season 1 of Free. Season 1's like a C tier. Season 1 is passable. Season 1 is, there's some nice bits, but I don't see anything special here. But season 2 of Free, for me, and I say for me because I have, this interesting connection to the topic material that I talked on earlier. This hit me in a different way that I did not expect.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a ton of passion behind it. So I would probably put this in like an A tier.
Whoa.
Like if we talk about like S tier being, Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya or Nichijou, then this is probably one of my favorite shows.
So just to clarify, where would you put San Euphonium?
I think we where did we end up on that? I think that was S tier. I think that's undeniably S tier. I rated that a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So that's definitely in my S tier as well. But like I think it's stronger than I wanted to mention Violet Evergarden, because I think I see a lot of Violet Evergarden in Free, or what became Violet Evergarden, and most of that's in character design. Maybe
I was going to say this is like Violet Evergarden felt like a progression of this sort of style. Because I guess it was like at this period you're sort of like kind of vying for supremacy, like which way they're going to go. Because this is like what Eternal Summer is like post Chinibyo but pre Amigi Park, and those two are sort of like this style of Kyoto Animation, or like at least in character design anyway.
A different style,
and then they have this sort of like more mature style. I guess I'm not more mature, but more like
realistic. The head is smaller in comparison to the proportions of the body. Yes, like absolutely, totally. There's a Moe blob Kyoto Animation that I guess lives on in Dragon Maid. Maybe I don't know. Who knows?
Dragon Maid its own sort of thing. I feel like Dragon Maid doesn't really look like anything else.
No, you're right. You're totally right. That maybe the last Moe blob was Oh gosh.
You see, it depends on how they go with, or like, because like I think like San Euphonium is sort of like in between worlds there, right? But
Mm.
Liz in the Bluebird is like discarding that one because that's just this sort of weird anomaly in terms of like it's Naoko Yamada being sort of like artsy fartsy for a movie.
It really is.
But like season 3 of I guess San Euphonium might bring it back to that sort of like midpoint, because I fucking love the Moe Blob anyway. Like
I do.
Oh my god, it's like speaks to my soul. And that I think
Yes.
that the San Euphonium is just like that perfect like middle point where it's not like Tomoko Market, but it's not also like Violet Evergarden where it's almost like Uncanny Valley.
Right.
With,
Yes, exactly. And like we said, like being on model and being very structured and rigid, I think works for the art of free, and it's certainly a choice, and they certainly stick to it.
Mhm.
But I am totally with you that I am Moe Blob through and through. I am give me the kyo-ani, like sometimes their hands don't even have fingers on them in kyo-ani, like
the mitten hands.
Yeah, the mitten hands. Yeah, that's the level of character design and art and animation that I want. But not everything works best with that, and I think that but I would say
free would not have worked like that.
No, that would be a tragedy of a show.
We denied Makoto's chin. That would have been terrible.
It's hard to make a shark face when you have no pointy, jagged edges.
How do you feel? How do you feel about the shark teeth? Like, are we like, okay, that's a
you guys gotta watch 50% off, because that's like a recurring joke. It's like a big thing. Yeah, that's weird. It works, right? Like
in season 1, it felt more like, I don't know, it felt more like cohesive in terms of like, okay, I kind of get what they're doing. But it was like there was times in season 2 or Eternal Summer where he's like, oh, look at Rin being sort of cheeky, and there's the shark teeth. It's sort of like was disarming, you know. Sure. Like there was a flashback when he was younger during the Australia episode, which again, the Rin sort of telling his Australia story, fucking great, loved it. But then he randomly had shark teeth in one clip, and it just felt like, well, why? Like, I know that's Rin, but and you know,
yeah, you got to break the model sheet. You gotta go off the model sometimes, but they don't in this show, and that's a very, very structured choice. Is that a Fujo bait thing of like the shark teeth are just like his calling card, right? Like is that core to that appeal of that character, the shark teeth always being there? I wonder.
I don't know. I think isn't the shark teeth just like a character design choice in general? Because there's characters in other shows with shark teeth.
I think like Soul Eater and some of that.
Oh, Soul Eater.
Soul Eater, Tokyo Ghoul.
Sure.
Tokyo Ghoul. Who has it?
The Inri. I just got done reading it, so the trauma is fresh.
Oh my god!
There's a character.
We talk about like you know, actualized sex scenes. Fucking Tokyo Ghoul sex. Oh my god, that is
what we should have gotten in free.
Oh well, hopefully it would be like with 20% less awkward. The sex, it was like 2 wooden planks just like clapping against each other.
Oh, that's the best type of sex. That's the
only way, like the first time I experienced that sex scene, like the only way it could have been less or more awkward is if my parents were like reading it over my shoulder with me. Oh my god.
Oh man, now I'm thinking about oh god, you've reawakened a memory of me of my watching the Cowboy Bebop film with my late father, and there's that scene where he forces Faye, like uses a knife to cut open her thing and like kisses Faye, and that, man,
you're just like,
that was awkward. And me being like 12 years old and being like,
is this okay?
Yeah, see, you got to do that sort of like stiff upper lip thing. This might just be me because of like where I come from, where you have to sort of like, you got to keep on going through. You can't show any sort of emotion whatsoever. But like, all right, we're sitting through this. No one's going to react. We're just going to sit here.
He's like, oh god, no.
Not like, I wonder what else is on. Or I'm gonna.
Let's have a talk, son, about how we treat people. And oh boy. We cannot leave this episode without acknowledging the fact that when they are in Sydney, they meet with Rin's foster parents, and Kyoto Animation did go through the effort of finding actual Australian people to voice these Australian foster parents. They did not, however, go through the effort of finding voice actors to voice these Australian parents. So if you ever want to laugh, go look up that scene and those Aussies voice acting. It's, oh my god, it's so good. Oh my god.
It's one of those things like I think this it's sort of like a running theme. I remember like the first time I really experienced this was Kuroko no Basket when they went to America, and it was just like, the funny thing with that one is actually, ironically enough, the Americans were clearly Australian in the Kuroko no Basket dub. It was, or not in the sub, sorry. So it was like, "Oi, mate, welcome to America." You know?
Oh no,
Struth.
I don't know if that's better or worse than actually
fucking
having
dreadful. No, it was Australian. Like, I know. I remember just thinking, it's like, oh, okay, they're Australian. Good job. Like, that's how like low the bar is. You know what I mean? Because I was like half expecting British accents, or or it's just that dreadful American. Like, no offense to like American actors who can't do other accents, but sometimes it's very apparent. It's like, this guy's clearly never seen like Crocodile Dundee or, I don't know, fucking Finding Nemo, has never heard an Australian accent before,
Yeah, I guess that just brings up all the times where somebody got it right, where they had someone speaking a foreign language and actually, had a good performance with that. The one I'll always remember, if you're a big Magical Girl fan, you'll know Momoko from Magical Do-Re-Mi is bilingual with English, and she doesn't have she's not like true fluent in English, but she does a really good job speaking English that you totally believe it. And when it's used correctly, it's kind of like, oh, that's nice. That's really neat. And then when you have this example that we have in Free Eternal Summer, you're like, holy shit.
Pull me right out of it, why don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad.
It is a fun accent, though, I will say that. I always get quite tickled by an Australian accent.
Oh yeah, it's super fun. Yeah.
Fucking the land that political correctness forgot. Australia. That is a fact. That is a fact. I would say that I've kind of like, I have a lot of family from Australia, and I've had the pleasure going there. It's like, it's a bit old school with some of the attitudes, but a beautiful country, and then they're very fun people.
Yeah, shout out to Australia. I mean, we don't want to go wrong of Australia. Like, y'all are great. Anybody listening in Australia, leave a comment down below.
This is the first visit to Australia in anime, or can you recall another one?
Oh man, there was this. I was talking to my Australian friend. This is true. In Gundam, in one of the Gundams, I don't know which one it is. The opening of the Gundam show is a space colony crashing down into Australia and sinking the entire continent of the sea.
Good.
It's a true story.
Said every New Zealander. Good.
Yeah. I can't think of another. It's actually really cool that they go to Australia, because there's only two like major swimming places in the world. In like competitive swimming world, you're either in the United States or you're in Australia. And for a long time, that was the only two countries battling it out for dominance in the swimming world. Recently, it's been a bit better. And like culturally in Japan, being an island nation, learning to swim is a big thing, right? And it's kind of a big deal, or more culturally acceptable and ubiquitous than it would be in some other places. But no, them going to Australia in particular, or Rin going to Australia to be a better swimmer, that's incredibly well researched and valid, because that's what you would do. Yeah.
Was that your favorite episode?
Oh yeah. Oh, I particularly love all the background art too. Like, it's clear as day that they just went to Sydney and took some pictures, or I don't know, maybe they Google Earthed it, who knows? But I really did enjoy that as climax for the entire arc, and just that they did it. That they were like, all right, we're going on this like soul-searching journey, and we're going to fucking Sydney, Australia. Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Also, I
Yeah,
like I
what was
said,
your favorite
I
episode?
loved Reen's fit during the Australia arc. We were just
Yeah.
thinking, it's like, he really wears a hat quite well. You know, the hat suits him.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I don't know, I liked his ensemble as he was going. And I remember that was at the point where I was like, God, fuck you, Haru. Fuck you, Haru. I was like, and I know the worst thing is he's called Haru as well, because I just keep on thinking of Haru from Fruits Basket and how much I love
Yes.
Black Haru and White Haru, and then I have to think this fucking miserable bastard who's just so emotionally unavailable. That's the problem. He's so emotionally unavailable because it's just like Makoto is so sweet. He's too good for him.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Totally.
And
Again, something that is played off and 50% off. You should go. So, an imbalanced couple. What was I going to say? The fit back in Australia. Oh, what was your favorite episode? You said it was the argument, right, between Makoto, Yata.
Oh, me.
Makoto.
See, there's a couple of moments. I thought that episode was really good. The argument with Makoto at the fireworks episode, because there was a couple of like really nice pacing moments in terms of like they just let it kind of hang. And I've always loved that, where it's sort of like where they just sort of like let it chill, and it's sort of it lets it breathe, and you kind of like it's a lot of inferred and implied, and I love that. That's specifically like a thing with anime as well. Like it's one of the reasons I love like Miyazaki's work so much, is that you get a lot of that. And there's like these weird moments in Free where it's like, shit, that was really well directed. Like really well directed. But I don't know, like the Rin, like the Australia story was, I really liked Rin's sort of like journey and getting like the perspective of, you know, him as a child through his foster parents. I thought that was pretty cool as well. But then again, there was like the sequence where Haru sort of like froze.
Oh yeah,
that was really well directed. That was like and even the build up to that when he had that dream where the scout, it was, well, I guess it was a nightmare. That was great. That was like that was like shit. Like this is, I didn't expect this from this anime at this time, you know?
Right. Right. Haru being so scared of being scouted and like scared of the future in that way. That's like, man.
Also, like very specific thing here, but I really like the fact that the scout looked like old Yakumo from Shogun Roku. I know you're not a fan, but I was like, wow, he really looks like old Yakumo, and that's a plus, because anything that reminds me of Shogun Roku is like a big dick jack.
So Sen, what about you? What's your favorite moment or scene, or you know?
There were a couple that like stood out to me. It's hard to pick a favorite episode, because kyo-ani is unique in the respect that like you can't, there's not like a huge difference as in like other shows. Like you can tell like when there's a different director for a single episode. It's much more difficult to tell with kyo-ani.
Right.
I did really enjoy the part with there was a part where it all kind of happened like in the second half of, I forget what episode it was, like episode 8 or 9, when Rin and Haru have like the big argument in the locker room, and Haru is kind of like confronted with this dilemma. Like he actually has to say it out loud, like what his problem is. That scene was really well storyboarded, I think. And then in that same sequence, I think either directly after or like very soon after, it cuts to, you see like Sosuke, he's like sitting in the shower with like like this man is dying. He's it's very well directed, and then the episode kind of ends after that.
The show don't tell angle. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And there was also not like necessarily one of the most important points in the the story, but there was the episode where Makoto was like coaching the children.
Yep.
And there was oh my gosh, I forget his name, but Kisumi's younger brother.
Momo? Is it Momo?
Momo? Yeah. Maybe?
Oh,
the little boy, the younger brother.
The kid. Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah,
one who couldn't swim. There's a moment where he, like, Makoto has, like, explained to him, like, you know, that he's not gonna let him drown, and then he has a moment where, like, the sky kind of opens up around him. It was a really, really nice moment, I think.
Yeah.
Hayato.
Yeah.
That was the kid's name.
Hayato, there we go. Yeah. That was a really, really nice little storyline, I think.
Man.
Yeah, Makoto was getting serious daddy vibes actually during that whole
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Makoto.
He's
so fucking He's so lovable. He's so lovable.
Oh, I remembered what I was gonna say now. All their names are female names, or traditionally female names in Japanese. Makoto, you know, Rei almost reminds me of the entire Sailor Soldiers there.
Do you think it was all a big payoff for that one scene in Australia where they had to share a bed?
Oh yeah.
It's like, that's why they did it.
I haven't gotten both of you finally ranking this on our Kyoto Animation tier list. I need to know where you put it. If I put it A tier,
okay.
I would agree with A.
Wow. Okay.
But that also seems high to me. I don't know.
You could say A minus. You could say B. You could say C.
I'll say B. If Clannad is C and Semiphonium's an S /
Yeah. Where do we put After Story? Was that B tier?
I think it was like a a strong C, weak B, I would say, or light B.
Okay.
This is definitely more enjoyable than After Story, but I'm not sure if I could like definitely say it's like outright better. Because there's a lot of context behind After Story that you have to kind of goes with it, you know. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, this is the second season of Free, where After Story is After Story. There's sort of a cultural weight behind After Story that just.
Oh right, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Definitely, I would say it's a B, but it's a strong B, like a B plus.
Okay.
I'm not outraged that it got an A, like from you.
I'll go B plus. I'll go B plus. That's fine for me. Yeah. I think again, it's more personal stuff that pushes it over to A for me. So, yeah. Okay, that's good.
So where would you the old if you would recommend something else?
Oh,
like if you like this for me it's like Yuri on Ice seems like the biggest.
Oh, for sure.
I was gonna go there. I was also gonna go Haikyuu for just the sports drama angle, because I did watch
also for Joshi, mate. Come on, Haikyuu's got.
Oh, is there? Is there a substantial reading? I did not know.
Why do you think I watch it?
Oh, okay. Makes more sense.
They also the guy's like, actually, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna take a needless pot shot at Free, just to get over more Haikyuu. But yeah, Haikyuu. I would say Haikyuu for sure. Yuri on Ice. 100%.
Right.
Like, because it's one of those other frustrating shows where you're just like, just fuck already.
Yeah, right.
And they have like debate. Like, I feel like with Haikyuu, or sorry, with Yuri on Ice, Yuri, it's just he's so much more gratifying as a character to follow than Haru.
Oh, you're talking about Japanese Yuri.
Yeah, well, I love Yurio, but like he's sort of like there's I don't think there's like an analog for him really in Free. Like maybe season one Rin. Season 1 Rin, maybe.
Yep.
But I love what happened to Rin in season 2. I think I would always want Yurio to have that sort of fire, you know?
Yes. That's a good comparison. Yes, I 100% on board with that one. Is there another show that we could bring up?
I would say, like, if what you enjoy from Free is like the character drama and like the undertones of romance, I would say, have you either of you seen Seaside Stranger? or
No.
Umibe.
No.
It's the manga is fairly popular, and then there was a movie or OVA released, I think last year or the year before. It's a really, really gorgeous art direction, and it's like a true boys' love. It's a very gratifying romance. And I would recommend it to anyone, whether you're like if you're into romance whatsoever. I would recommend it. It's between like two college age boys, and like the character writing feels very real and natural. And it's also just like a really, really gorgeous movie. The manga is gorgeous as well.
Nice. It turns out it's actually on my plan to watch, so I definitely
Oh,
want to watch it.
really?
Yeah. I'm gonna try Given as well, because I still think the show needs more love.
Okay.
And I'm pretty there is that it gets explicit there as well, as in like they do, you know, it's not just implied. They have actual like relations. Just leave it at that.
I'm gonna throw out a weirder one here, and see if you follow me on this one. But
Full
the
Metal
recently
Alchemist.
airing Full Metal Alchemist. No, Blue Period, the art drama. And this is like different story wise, but I think it gave me that same type of I don't know what my passion is and how to chase this passion. We're discovering this passion type vibe with the main protagonist. And if you liked Haru's arc in this season, then perhaps that will be something that will catch you in the same way, even if it's about art instead of sports. It's still the same conflict at the end of the day. I think we've talked this one to the ground, or to the bottom of the pool.
To the bottom of the pool. Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah, man.
What else do you want to say? Come on. If you got anything else to say about Free, speak now or forever.
Are they the best looking characters in anime history? Have you ever seen a better cast of characters physically? Like literally everyone is gorgeous.
Oh, well, yeah.
And it's not just the rock hard abs of the boys. Like the ladies, the teachers, even the fucking coach. Everyone's just like, yeah, everyone is put together.
We didn't even mention what was her name? The teacher, the lady.
Oh, the one who keeps on doling out like these like
she's so cute.
sayings.
Yeah. She's what about the weird blonde coach guy? He's mostly in season 1. I don't know if
Coach Sasabe.
Yeah.
I like him. He's very like he reminds me of the coach from Haikyuu, so it's like
yeah, but I'm saying he's not pretty. He's not a looker. He's not.
No, he is. Yeah. He is for his age.
You lie.
He's got like a haircut, and he's pretty swole. Like you could do worse. Jesus.
I think I like the way characters look in Hibike Euphonium more than I do in Free. I said it.
There, I said it. Also, because we're just throwing out things, I actually quite like the Nitori sort of journey in this season, and this kind of extends to that whole like Rin's team in general. God, I found them way more engaging than the Iwatori guys.
Oh, he's the
guy with the beauty mark. He reminds me a lot of reminds me a lot of the dude from Tokyo Ghoul. Actually, oddly enough that we said it. He's the gray haired dude. He's got the sort of he's like young Victor.
Okay, design wise, not character wise.
No, definitely not character wise. I liked it. I liked that whole like with him when he was getting coaching and he was there. You know, it was just like this kind of nice little like B plot or C plot was going on.
Yeah, I was about to say I can't follow you on this one. That I don't care for that character. And
no.
That's probably worse than the character deserves. But
yeah, he was lovely. He like really tried.
Yeah.
He actively tried, which is like not
everyone.
He
was training every night.
Yeah,
and I like that they appointed him captain at the end.
He feels like a pandering character. He feels like we need
Yeah.
someone to receive in the relationship and the boys love or whatever. What's the term for that?
Bottom. He's a bottom.
Yeah. Or what is it? Seme? Is that it? I don't. Outside of my comfort zone here, but he feels like a character designed to fill that angle or like enable another
for
relationship.
Sure. He's the Nagisa for their team.
I way prefer him over Nagisa. I could take or leave Nagisa, honestly.
Sure. I get you.
Also, what was the other? Yeah, I don't know. You guys rooting for? Did you feel it was more of a Samezuka season than it was the other, our home team? Oh, Iwatobi.
Oh, Iwatobi.
Yeah. I was actively rooting for Samezuka in the race when they had that. I was just like, oh god, let his shoulder hold out. God, don't do this.
Yeah. And they have the fun bit with it starts in the beginning with them. And you see the captain leaving and the red-haired captain in the first episode. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, they are in the focus a bit more. And yes, with that other character. But I don't know. I think that it's mostly the relationship. I don't see it on team lines. I guess there is that, and we talked about that previously about the relay race and everything. I saw it more as, Rin Haru, Rin Sosuke, Haru Sosuke, and just the whole relationship matrix, Haru Makoto, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I gotta say, I was definitely buying into the whole Samezuka thing. Also, Momo's swimsuit. I don't know why it felt more revealing to me than anything else. It's like
his Speedo.
His Speedo. It felt like really speedy. I don't know, there's like a word for like. I don't know, because it was like for one of those things you're like, oh, which swimsuit do I like the best? I always think Rin looks the best anyway. Those long pants thing. Because Sosuke has the long pants as well, right? It just even though they're illegal or whatever, they look. Yep. I think it works. It actively looks kind of cool.
This is a true story. Okay, the number one swimmer in my state of Delaware when I was growing up, when I was swimming, he was famous for wearing a pink Speedo to every race, no matter what, and he had like 7 of them. And he had different shades of pink too, and he had all these collection of pink Speedos. And I was like, that's the thing you get to do when you're the best swimmer in the pool, like nobody else can pull it off. Yeah.
You have to have like a signature thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, he's the guy with the pink Speedo, or he's the guy that always like fucking dabs or whatever before he hops into the water.
Yeah.
It's like you're good enough to be kooky and sort of like not just
exactly.
Yeah, I just thought Momo Speedo though was like, I don't know, it felt a bit much. I don't know why, because there's other people wearing Speedos, but for some reason with Momo, maybe because he's like younger than everybody else, it just felt like, oh, I don't know if I like this. I like the character though; he's a very fun character. Him and his brother, I could watch like an OVA or something like that. Just those two guys swimming backstroke or whatever.
Now I like that like swimming backstroke is a genetic trait.
Oh man, boy, I can go in. We do not have time for that in this podcast or tonight in this discussion. But there's so much that I could talk to, or like when they talk about the muscles that they use in each of their strokes, and I think that's the season 1. But like, yeah, swimming. I swam breaststroke, and breaststroke is its own thing, and butterfly is. You never see anybody that can swim both butterfly and breaststroke competently, because they are like opposing rhythms and they don't use the same muscles, and it just doesn't happen. So even somebody like Michael Phelps, he can swim breaststroke obviously, but it's terrible. He's not very good at it at all, but he's a very good butterfly. And when Ray can only swim butterfly, I find that pretty funny. That's one of the harder strokes, and it's a cute ongoing joke.
Oh, actually, speaking of cute, when Ray sort of had the big reveal about it, that he was practicing, and they already knew, and they were sort of like feigning, sort of like amazement. I was like, that was the moment I was like, oh, I love Rin, or not Rin, sorry, Ray. I love Ray. He's so like endearing.
That's what I'm talking about with the tone of the show, and that they let you have those moments, and that that's not the Rin Haru thing. That's not the thing, but it adds into those choices of what I want to do later in the life, because you have those little moments and those genuine like bits, those tasty morsels of character and togetherness, and makes it a good show.
It does. That's what I think. That's the stuff that kyo-ani does so fucking well.
Yep.
Right.
Like, and that's like no matter what they have released, I'm always liked it on some level, purely because of like moments like that.
Exactly. And when we get to Munto, when we get to Nichijou, all the shows that we have yet to talk about, there's some element of that.
All the S tier shows like Munto.
Don't spoil it.
The big reveal that it's an S tier.
Spoilers: Munto is not an S tier.
I still think it's like fucking baffling that it's on the list. But again,
some might think it's baffling that we talked about season 2 of Free.
Yeah. I literally thought it was baffling, but now after having seen it, I can see why. It's quite odd though that we did Clannad After Story and Free Eternal Summer, but not Clannad and season 1 of Free.
I don't think that's weird at all. I think they're both better than their first seasons.
I
think they're both more important.
I would agree, but there's a certain there's a certain way of doing things. You start with 1 and then you go to 2, right? As opposed to
convention.
Skipping 1. Yeah.
I have no time or mental energy for convention.
So, surprisingly enough, though, Munto is not coming up next.
Yes. Next episode, we have another guest, and we will be doing
Tamako Market.
Oh boy!
I can't wait.
Boy,
can't wait.
Oh boy! Get your bird hate ready.
No. One of my goals in life is to have a fucking Dara plushie. I will have that. I have scouted them. I think it's better than K-On! I'm just gonna throw that already. I'll be defending it.
Boy, turn in next time for us arguing about that opinion, because I do not share in that.
No, it's one for me. God damn it.
Okay, all right.
Hopefully, everyone, a quick rewatch, and you're like, actually, he was right. This is this is an S tier show.
Considering how much I struggled with that show the first time around, maybe.
My goal is by the end of it, you to go, you know what? Sound of the Sky was good, but Tamako Market.
No.
This is the real shit right here.
If those words ever come out of my mouth, oh boy. Oh, I'll have to go through like a horror level crisis of identity to even get to a place where I could consider that.
I don't know. There's something. I just think it's so. We gotta save it, but God, it's so cute.
Okay. Well, friends, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Endless 8, Kyoto Animation podcast. And if you would like to hear us discuss Tamako Market, please do tune in to episode 4 that can be found on the RSS feed for the podcast, right?
Yep, and it'll be over on my channel. And we'll hop
back. Channel.
We'll hop back over here for Munto.
Munto is number 5. Spoilers. Let's go.
It's the peak. It's already downhill after Munto.
Downhill after Munto.
Sorry, Nichijou. You're just not Munto.
Munto's not the punching bag here. We literally have Miri Colors Phantom World on the show, and that is substantially worse than Munto. I will tell you right now. So,
it's just fun to say Munto. It sounds like a dirty word. Like it could be a sex organ. Who knows?
Or it could be an Australian term that you're not really sure if it's offensive over here.
Actually, I should say this. In Ireland, we do have a word, and it's also in England called munter. And munter is quite a derogatory term for someone who's maybe not the best looking in the world, as in like, that person is a real munter.
Wow!
Yeah. That's probably why it's hilarious to me that the show is called Munto, because all I keep on thinking is Munter.
Okay. Well, I'm interested to see what you think about when we get to it. But that's for the future. Right now, we're done talking about Free Eternal Summer. Sen, thank you so much for coming on, for providing perspective on this franchise and this show. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Sen. Nice to meet you.
You as well.
And so everybody, thank you so much for listening. And tune in next time as we continue talking about the works of Kyoto Animation.
Bye bye, love you, bye.
Bye.
後で言い出そう